It's a major problem. And Speaker Johnson has been talking about those maybe deadbeat folks that are on Medicaid, and maybe some of those folks are the stay-at-home sons. We don't know. But I'll tell you this, leave it to Gen Z to rebrand laziness and social awkwardness as something cutesy, like a stay-at-home son. They did much the same thing with quiet quitting, where you can go to work and do less, and if you call it quiet quitting, it's somehow better. But Laura, I got to tell you, this is also a big problem when it comes to, I think, declining birth rates, people not getting married and having children. That's a big problem. They blame it on women. Well, look at what young women have to choose from. The pickings are slim. Yes, we might have a feminist problem in America, but it's the feminization of men. There are a lot of young women out there that want to get married. They want to have kids. They want to have stable families. But there are a lot of young men out there who want to live in mama's basement and order DoorDash. And therein lies a big part of the problem.
I'm that guy. I want to stay in my mama's basement and order DoorDash. In some sense, I actually think everybody's giving her shit, and we got Asmongold down here. We're gonna talk about his comment in a second, but everybody's giving her shit, and to a degree, I actually think she's right. She's a little right. She's a little bit right, not completely, because I know the angle she's taking is that men are losers or whatever, and I don't agree with that. But the actual truth of it is that I think that there are a lot of guys who are checking the fuck out and giving up, and they're probably not very good mates. And so, she's kind of right in the sense, that's just my initial take. What do you think about that?
Well, it didn't seem like she kind of attacked two groups. She started by attacking Zoomers generally, right? And kids are lazy kind of.
She just started attacking all men.
Then she just sort of went on a roll and started shifting into men are an issue right now.
Yeah.
And so either she's attacking two groups or she's actually just attacking the intersection of Gen Z men, right? Which I feel like
is
kind of how it played. Yeah, that's kind of how it played out. But she's right about the situation, I suppose. But I don't know that involves a judgment there.
Right. Yeah. And she's saying, oh, it's feminization of men. Well, it's like dog. And she goes, we have a feminist problem. Well, isn't that the whole reason why men are being feminized? You're saying that there's a feminist. She kind of hand waved that, saying there's a feminist problem on the women's side, but men are being too feminine. But isn't that the whole point? Is that our culture shifted away from dudes to women, and thus men started to fall behind and not give a shit anymore because no women out there. That's the whole problem. I made a video on that a while ago. It's there's no what's the profit motive for men? Men don't give a shit about being strong and masculine for women because they're not going to get a woman. They're like, who cares? Because women have been brainwashed.
No one had to artificially create incentives to get men to go to work and found families for hundreds of years, right? So if that's suddenly a problem now, the problem isn't that. I'd say that there needs to be a more singular explanation for that, right? Mean? If it's, I'm saying that saying that, well, there's just these men aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing isn't an explanation for something that men have been doing for hundreds of years and now suddenly stopped, right? It's not it's not men. It's not just men is the problem. There's something else going on.
Yeah, it's not randomly. She's saying it's randomly out of nowhere. Men are just Gen Z men are just giving up on.
Being. It's funny too. I was just listening to a stream the other day, and there was a guy on who was engaged. He was Gen Z. He was engaged, and he said, "I identify as a gym cell." And I've seen that a number of times where you have people who are even married or they have girlfriends and they'll identify with this group, or they'll have a job and they'll say, I'm a NEET, right? And it's there's something there that everyone is relating to, even if they're not in the situation, if they're part of our generation.
I literally was just at church the other day, and the one dude who he's kind of in a similar situation I am. He's kind of a newer member to the church. We were talking about he brought up he works from home 3 or 4 days out of the week, and he said I had to go into the office today for one day, and I was like, oh, you went goblin mode, and everybody started laughing because they intrinsically know what that is, and they kind of right. So there is an allure to that, and just of our generation, and that could just be technology, the ability to stay at home and work from home. Which I definitely
think the lack of incentives to go out. It's both. Actually, I think it's more the incentive side. I think it is more comfortable to be at home these days. Yeah, we do have DoorDash and stuff, but I don't really think that's the reason. I think it's more you go out and you're like, wow,
Not much
everyone I
going
meet,
on.
I don't. Yeah, or I meet people and I don't want to be friends with. Like, at my work, if I'm just living my life, I'm not going to encounter people there that are like me at all, right? And it's like, let alone like, oh, there's a few people, who do I want to be friends with? Who do I want to pick to marry? It's like I go out there and there's like, okay, well, no one here even, I'm kind of like a bookish kind of person. Like no one here even reads books, let alone my book, like let alone something that, oh, we share a common interest. Like no one even here does that. And I think a lot of people experience that just because we are more fractured as a society.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you're Christian too, right? So it's like there is a religious
Right. But
aspect. Like how many
yeah,
people are
yeah.
share that? Like nobody does anymore. And
Yeah,
that's a
and
whole other
I'm not
aspect of
saying
it.
it's not just the one way, right? Because
No,
if
no,
I
no,
go there and there's a guy who loves, NBA, and he tries to talk to me about it, he's just gonna get like nothing from me,
nothing.
right? And
Yeah.
he's gonna feel like, okay, I was trying. He'll go out and go, hey man, want to do a pickup game? And I'll be like, no, and then I go home, and then he's like, so he doesn't have friends either, right?
Well, why would that be the case though? Like NBA, that's not
Because
even
because
that has nothing to do with technology or like. I mean, it's like that's part of the culture, I guess. But like, why would like you're just saying like
it,
so you say that you're saying that when you see people, you have no relation to them because none of these people are like me. But why
yeah,
is it that is it because and this is where I bring the technology aspect
yeah.
into it is that like is it because there's so many avenues of entertainment that nobody has any unified culture anymore? Like
Yeah, yeah, I think that. I mean, that's what I think is that we're just not as unified.
yeah,
There's more
on many different
variety.
levels, on many different levels, not
Yeah,
just yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. That's
And
true.
I think people have get in their little pockets because of, partly it is, people are online more, right? So
Yeah,
I go home and then I find my group online. He goes home, he finds his stuff online. So that contributed to it, but now it exists even in the real world because now if people then leave their homes to go, oh, okay, you know what? I love talking to people online, but I want to talk to these people in real life. They go out there and they're not there, right? They can't find them. So,
yeah. So technology, big part of it, we would say.
yeah,
Just the ever changing
fair,
landscape
fair,
of technology.
fair. Yeah.
Um, and like there is that like the ideological part where she's like that is a part of it, but like I mean, because how much of a masculinity like because she's like men are being feminized. It's like how much of it that is going out and doing and actively doing stuff and experiencing and going through trials and tribulations and like you yourself experiencing stuff, but like the internet doesn't really play into that, technology doesn't really aid in that at all. So it's like if she wants to talk about men should be masculine, it's like well she has to, I feel like she has to be anti-technology right? Like would you like do you think like would I mean wouldn't she have to be?
I don't. Would you say, in your experience, knowing guys growing up, that it was the guys who were more into tech that were more effeminate?
Well, I would say like almost every guy was into tech in some way, right? Everybody's into
Yeah, but
tech in some way, but
but the more, to me, there maybe is a slight leaning that way, but it's not strong. I think I knew guys that were really into tech and then and became and were masculine and became masculine guys, right? And they got married and they had families and they joined the military. And then I know weebs and stuff that didn't, right? But it's and then I know people who are more like sporty kind of social guys that you know came out trans and stuff. So
hmm,
it's mixed. If I went out and I tried to make friends at work, right, I would have that issue that we just described. But if I went out and tried to find what do I really do connect with these people on, what I connect with almost all of them on is the social situation, right? The economic situation. Like there
like
is some
politics, yeah.
commonality, and we all know, and even things like, oh yeah, we all know about DoorDash. We all know, like you said, oh, I'm having a gremlin day. Or like we all know,
Goblin mode.
right? Oh my God, not
Get it
gremlin.
right.
But like we do share it. So there is shared experience. But what is shared is not our hobbies. It's not good things. It's like this kind of oppressive societal reality.
Why contribute to a society that actively tries to disadvantage you? Men are becoming increasingly more disillusioned with modern society, and being chastised by women won't change that. Embracing being a NEET. Never apologize for existing in your own best interest.
Yeah, I say embracing being the need, right?
And it's like there is like an aspect of like because I feel like the conception she's saying of like being a man, masculine, it's like you're taking charge, you're doing the things that need to be done, you're being a leader. But it's like, and I keep harping on the tech thing, but like the technology aspect of it is replacing all that. Like we don't need it. you don't need to be able to do and you don't need to do work on your car, right? Like you can literally get somebody to do that for you. You don't need to be able to, you know what I mean? Like all these things in technology and society are kind of just replaced by like they're outsourced. So there's not like a guy who like goes and takes charge and does all this stuff.
You know, we understand that there is something masculine about taking
well,
charge.
real quick, I was gonna say, but like, and guys are okay with that because they are like, women now are psycho crazy feminists. So even if I wanted to buck that and fight against that to get my fair maiden, it's probably not going to pan out.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's, I mean, the not panning out for sure. I would agree with. I think too, there's this paradox of part of being masculine is being, you know, assertive and confident, right?
Yeah, but where does that come from? That comes from being. Okay, go ahead.
But someone like Asmongold, or someone who says, I don't care what you think. I'm a neat and I'm proud of it. I don't go to work.
I'm
you know,
neat and proud.
that is what we just described, right? That's someone who says, I do my own thing, right? And I don't just because society wants me to do this, like it's kind of striking your own way. So there's this paradox where it's like, well, we want masculine men who just don't do what other people want them to do, right? Who don't just listen to the voices on, you know, on the TV. It's like, but then they do this. This is what's happening. Because it's like there is an aspect of men that you can't take away. Even unmasculine men, they're still men, right? And what we're observing societally and men checking out is them doing exactly what they're describing men should do. Is that like, well, they do their own thing. They say, oh, you know, and that's even what like MGTOW, right? What it's called, men going their own way. It's like guys who say, okay, well, I'm going to do what I want, right? I'm going to do my thing. And ideally, doing that is good for society and is setting up something like a healthy family. Unfortunately, right now, it's not.
Right. Well, and then I also think how much of it is the conception, like what is like her conception of a man? Because like what you're saying is like, it's a guy bucking the system doing his own thing, but like her conception of what a masculine man is like, you need to be able to do all these XYZ things. And it's like, what you're telling me is that like, well, that's actually transformed into, I am going to be my own self and do my own thing. And it's not to take part in any of this shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, so she's getting this wake up call where like guys are sitting in their basement all day. It's like, that was seen as a loser 40 years ago, when you had the ability to go out and take charge, but now you don't have that. So now maybe that is the meta, the masculine meta. I don't know. Neats will rule the world. Is that?
I mean, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but like you can imagine a guy who takes her advice, right? Who grinds and grinds and grinds to you know, to make $70K a year, get a down payment on a house, start a family, right? Like, and then it's like, but you look at that guy and you say, is he doing that because he's being his confident self? What, like, is he being masculine and doing that? Or is he kind of trying to do what this woman on television is telling him he needs to do to be a man, right? Is he kind of pathetic? Like, and so like I said, it's kind of a paradox.
Yeah. And then people say you're simping, right? You're a simp. Because you're doing all that to get, you know, pussy. And it cuts a little bit, right? I don't agree all with that, but like that does cut a little bit. Some of these guys who do it the right way, right? And then some, you know, some internet guy, right, says you're just a simp, right? And you're an idiot. And but then you know, some of those guys can make it though. Like some of those guys can do stuff.
Yeah,
if they're smart and they're, you know, they're actually applying themselves in the right areas, like. They actually will make it. So it's like, that is like, you will have those like overwhelming simp insult thrown at you for doing this stuff.
Right.
But then you do have guys who do make money and they find a woman and they get married and that's that, and they have kids, and it's like, okay, well that guy.
Yeah.
So it's like, I do think, you know, you can, it's not always just like a losing battle. I think you can get, and maybe it's luck involved. I don't really know, but I think you can.
It is weird though having someone like Asmongold there, right? Who's what, multimillionaire? I don't know. He's got a lot of money, right? Yeah. Saying embrace being a neat. He identifies with needs, and you know you can kind of see it too. Like I remember watching a video where he said he basically lives the same way he did before, but like
cockroach-filled house.
Would you say that Asmongold is not mastered, would you say he failed as a man? And then the second question would be like, would this woman say that? Would she say, "Oh, you're just a loser"? It's like he's a millionaire, right? He can do whatever he wants. Like, you know, I think she probably would still say he's a loser.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of what I said earlier is like, it's her conception of what a man is.
Yeah.
Is like, I see the hardworking man working on his car, taking charge and doing this, but it's like, that doesn't like really like equate to the real world anymore. So like, men are having to kind of evolve, but it's like the evolution, you know, it is like an inverse evolution in a way, because like women are culturally have been told to push themselves into doing more, and to try and be a CEO and try and work. And you know, people say, oh, this is not even working, whatever, but like a lot of women do take that and they go and try and run with it. And it's like on the inverse, it's like there hasn't been any of that with men. And what are men doing? They're taking it and running with it, and this is what you get. You're getting men who are sitting in the basement. It's a tough one. It's a tough one to say. I think it's definitely like, if you have a conception of what a man is as a woman, and it's an old 1950s man, that's not going to happen, because the world is totally different. It's just not the way it is. Like, that's going to be like a dime a dozen. And I don't know if women are going to be sad and be like, where's my man? I don't want to date Asmongold. I don't want to date the Asmongold, but it's like, that might be the average dude nowadays. And so, like, I don't know where we happen here. So the people aren't just, men don't want to date the crazy feminazis. Women don't want to date the Asmongold. It's like, where are we at? We're done. We're cooked. Is that it? Society, civilization's cooked. We're not going to get together anymore, I guess.